Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle. It's Monday, the 11th of September, and I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald on the Twitter handle. Good morning, Aidan. Good weekend, sir.
Yeah, I'm good, Tony. I'm good. It was a nice weekend. How about yourself?
All right, I hate not having my fix of club football, but Scotland did okay on Friday night, and onto the English game on Tuesday night. So be watching that, hoping that Callum McGregor comes through unscathed and all that kind of malarkey. But yeah, a decent weekend. Morning, everybody. I hope we all had a good weekend and can't wait for club football to come back this Saturday when Celtic take on Dundee Aidan. But we'll get to that in due course over the course of the week. Indeed. Now, over the weekend, I just kind of like to look at all things Celtic. I'm sure everybody was smiling when Celtic won the Masters. A couple of goals for Gary Hooper. Kelvin Wilson saying Brendan Rodgers should sign him at the ripe old age of 35, all that kind of stuff. But something did catch my eye, Aidan, and it was Kenny Dalglish talking about Kyogo Furuhashi and takes a great goal scorer to no one, doesn't it? And this is what Kenny Dalglish wrote in his column. He said, I need to commend the winning goal from Celtic's Kyogo. He was talking about the Rangers game last weekend. It was an outstanding strike and just reaffirmed again what a wonderful talent he is. At a transfer fee of around 4 million, 4.5 million, but it's King Kenny. It's King Kenny, so we'll let him off. Even he's one of the transfer bargains of the millennium. Last Sunday showed once again that Celtic are the team to beat, and they will not give up their title lightly. They have quality players and a winning mentality, led by Captain Callum McGregor. They know what it takes to be successful. Now, Aidan, I don't know about you, but at a transfer fee of around 4 million, Kyogo is one of the transfer bargains of the millennium. Discuss. Now, the comparisons have been coming thick and fast with Henrik Larsson. We off air just prior to his coming on, we looked at the numbers, crunched the numbers, just throw these at you. He's got 6 goals in his last 6 derby matches. He's got 57 Celtic career goals. He's got 11 assists, and he's played 88 times. Phenomenal stats, I think that's called, Aidan.
Yeah, his numbers are exceptional, and I'm sure they'd be even better if he wasn't unlucky with injury in that first season, Tony. He obviously had
Yeah,
up to about 4 months out, didn't he? Sort of there
yeah,
was a spell earlier in the season, and then not long after that League Cup final against Hibs when he pulled his hamstring when there was a lot of players out with COVID. I think it was about 3 months or so. So probably could potentially have added another 10, 15 goals, maybe even onto that during that spell. But yeah, been a brilliant signing, Tony. And, he's really kicked on in the last 12 months again, getting that duck off his back of not scoring against Rangers. Then since then, he's done nothing but score against Rangers. But yeah, he's been a phenomenal signing, and it was a really good bit of business by Celtic and Ange Postecoglou at the time to get him over.
Now, Aidan, I've the, the briefing article says, can he do it in Europe? Can he net in Europe? I think that remains the only unticked box for Kyogo Furuhashi. He drew a blank in 6 games in the Champions League last season. But yeah, I think if he does that, then there'll be even more comparisons come thick and fast. I know everybody likes to talk about the best since Larson, all that kind of stuff. So we I think the jury's still out on that, but if he stays at Celtic for the duration of his contract, he can certainly hit big numbers, can't he? And I'm certain if he stays, he will hit a century of goals and become another on that elite list. I think it's 30 players. He might become the 31st player to score 100 goals for Celtic. Here's hoping if he stays for the duration of his contract. But can you see that for him? And do you see him wanting to make amends for last season, not scoring in the Champions League? I think players have personal goals and ambitions, don't they? And I'm sure that remains, as I say, an unticked box for Kyogo.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, as you touch on, probably the one thing that's maybe went against him so far. He's only had obviously 6 games in the Champions League. To be
Yeah,
fair,
yes.
it's not like he's had 4 or 5 seasons and 20 plus chances. But yeah, I imagine if he can get a couple of goals in that, which is also the premium European tournament, and that this year, that will allow him to sort of maybe be considered probably the best since Larson. I know there's already an argument that he is, which I understand. I think at the moment, even though Dembele only did the kind of 2 seasons and Kyogo's got more goals than him domestically, he did get the big goals in the Champions League, Tony, against Man City, PSG, and I think Mönchengladbach was the other one. So if Kyogo can get, a couple of goals in the group stage or hopefully even further on that, then yeah, I think he's very much fully in the conversation. But that'll be probably a good monkey for him to hopefully get off his back. He scored in the Europa League in Andrew's first season, so it's not that he's got an issue scoring in Europe at all, of course not, but probably if he can score in the Champions League and if Celtic overall can take more of their chances, then I think that'll be a bit more positive this season from a European perspective.
That's high praise indeed, though, from King Kenny, isn't it? You know my thoughts about King Kenny. I guess Kyogo Furuhashi's your King Kyogo, your generation, but King Kenny was, and I've said this before, a 10 out of 10 player every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. Wonderful footballer, wonderful goal scorer. But yeah, it's I think when people like Kenny Dalglish are heaping that kind of lavish praise on you, then you've got to sit up and take notice and say you're a player.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously high praise from a phenomenal player for Celtic, Liverpool, and Scotland. So yeah, he definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to goals, Tony, and just shows you how brilliant Kyogo's been. That he's been discussed as he coined it the bargain of the millennium. Definitely from a Celtic point of view, anyway, he's very highly in contention for that. And yeah, no, it was nice to hear that. Good praise and but well deserved praise for Kyogo from Kenny Dalglish.
Many times you watched Kyogo's goal last week, Aidan?
Well, given we've maybe had a wee bit more time than usual over the international break to sort of watch things back, it's probably double figures, Tony. That video that Celtic released last week, and it was the different angles. I think it was about a 2.5 minute video, and it was all the different sort of camera angles and all the sort of reactions, like of the bench, etc., to seeing the goal go in. If I'm including that, then it's probably over about 10 times, which not enough in my opinion, Tony. I might just watch it after this as well.
I was just going to say it's about 67-0 in the games I've been watching. You know what I mean? So there you go. That gives you an idea of how many times that I've watched it. But yeah, we'll take some comments about King Kenny and Larson as well. Gordon Coney saying Kyogo's probably the best foreign import since Larson. Yep, I would probably go along with that. To be fair, morning Gordon, how we doing? My ball saying can't compare with the King of Kings until he does something on the European stage. That's a fair comment as well. Anton Kyogo will do us proud in Europe money. Anton, how you doing? Plunge McNugget saying not probably Kyogo is the best since Henrik. Michael Ross saying if Kyogo can do it at the Champions League, which he hasn't yet, then maybe we can call him world class. Steve McGrory making a great point here. We need to keep reminding ourselves that Kyogo's goals include not one single penalty, Aidan. I think that's a pertinent point. Michael Ross come back in saying people seem to forget how good Moussa Dembele was. Aidan doesn't forget how good Moussa Dembele was. Big Moussa Dembele fan. It's a bold Aidan. Peter Murphy, morning Peter, how you doing? Good morning for your sunny Gibraltar. Nice to watch you live for a change. Kyogo will be crucial for Celtic in the Champions League. Don't doubt that. Francis PC Green, the wee man and the team need to up the levels for Europe. And Derry Jerry saying Kyogo's definitely the best since the King. Don't know what King he's talking about, King Kenny or King Larson. Jamie McSorley, King Larson, and Mo Sislak saying Kyogo is an excellent player, but an impact in the Champions League is really required if we are to escalate the conversation to include King Kenny or Henrik. Kind of what I'm saying, Aidan, that if he does that, then yeah, I think you'll be in that exalted company.
Yeah, of course, if he can get a couple of goals in the group stages, then he'll be right up there. That is probably the only thing that's going against him at the moment. But as we were touching on, he's only had one season in that competition. There's only been 6 games, one of which he came off the bench against Real Madrid because he'd kind of been nursing a knock after the Rangers game, the 4-0 match last season when he hurt his shoulder. So yeah, it's probably only really been 5 games mostly. But if he can get a couple of goals in the competition this year, then I think that probably would put him as sort of the second best to Larson, because it does look like Kyogo's going to stay a lot longer than Dembele did, even Edouard did to an extent, whereas most guys that have maybe been sort of really top forward, you've only really had maybe 2-3 years out of them. Whereas I think it's pretty reasonable that Kyogo does a couple of years. So, yeah, no, it's if he gets those Champions League goals, Tony, I think he'll be right up there.
Michael Duffin, Larsson is God, but Kyogo can be that great. There's a prediction for you. Bookmark that, Aidan. Bookmark that. Yeah, you know. But yes, I think it's all relative. Those who watched King Kenny and his pomp and ceremony will argue that he's the last. Well, in my opinion, King Kenny's the last world class player that Scotland has produced as a Scottish player. I mean, Henrik Larsson is a world class player, and he is in the all-time great Celtic 11, the only foreigner to be so. So that tells you what Celtic supporters think about him, and I think he's the best foreign import to play in the Scottish Premier League, bar none. My own opinion again. I think the goals speak for itself. 242 in 315 games. Exceptional scoring stats. So I guess it just depends where you sit on that. But Kyogo's certainly going about his business the right way. Aidan, I say 57 goals in 88 appearances, 11 assists, and 6 goals against Rangers in his last 6 appearances against Rangers. You cannot argue with that, really, can you?
No, you can't. You can't, Tony. I think particularly the recent sort of goals against Rangers that have put him up there even more really important strikes, such as the one that we were just discussing in the recent game. But
Yeah.
yeah, Kyogo's numbers are really positive, particularly when you factor in, as I was touching on at the start, that he missed 4 months roughly with injury in that season. His first campaign. I don't know exactly how many games, but I think it was at least about 20 or so. He potentially could add another 10 goals onto that tally. His numbers are phenomenal, Tony, and yeah, we'll make it continue. Just hopefully he stays fit across this season, like last year, and he can play plenty of football. And I think in terms of recent goals since Larson, I know not Kyogo, sorry, Lee Griffiths got 40 in the 15-16 campaign. It would be, I'd imagine, if Kyogo stays fit the whole season, he'll be trying to get sort of some more numbers over that, which I think that would then be the best goal scoring season from a striker since Larson when he got 50. So if Kyogo was able to get that, I think that probably put him up there even more. And along with the European goals, that would fully probably cement him as maybe as Kenny Dalglish coined it, the bargain of the millennium.
Michael Ross, world class is so overused. I get you, Michael, but I've used it in relation to 2 players who, I said, in my opinion, I don't use world class that often because I talk about, if you hear me talk about world class, I talk about the truest definition and sense of the words. King Kenny was world class, Henrik Larsson world class, in my humble opinion. That's I'll leave that there because I know lots of labels about world class and players get labelled world class when they're not. So, but I will argue the toss every day that King Kenny Dalglish and the King of Kings are world class. I think their monikers say it all. So that's just, again, a personal opinion. Aidan, do you back that up?
Obviously, you've seen a lot more of both players than me, Tony, which don't let I would to that too much. But
Thanks for that.
yeah, sorry, it was low hanging fruit, wasn't it? But overall, I think it's fair to say that numbers wise and what they both achieved for Celtic and went on to achieve kind of Lucia at Liverpool for Scotland, Larson also going to win the Champions League of Barcelona. I think it's fair to say that they would both fall into the world class bracket. Tony Kyogo's probably still got a bit to go if he wants to be considered as that, but it's a subjective phrase, isn't it? In terms of what people, maybe with the exception of a few players, somebody like Messi, etc. Nobody's going to dispute that he's world class. I would say the best all time, Tony. I know you would disagree. We're not getting into that because that's a separate discussion. But in terms of Dalglish and Larson, I would believe that they are both world class, but I completely understand it's a subjective phrase that not everybody's going to agree with.
I also couch it with the fact that I think that the likes of Dalglish, Larsson, and Kyogo is on his way to I measure it in kind of the unbridled joy, is my phrase, that Kenny Dalglish and Larsson brought to Celtic supporters. Just really lifted Celtic teams out the ordinary at times, and just put a smile on every Celtic supporter's faces when they were doing what they do best, and that's score goals and giving them so many moments that you're still talking about them now. When Ken Dalglish left Celtic 1977, still talking about things that he did for Celtic. So I think that you carve an indelible mark in the hearts and minds of the Celtic supporters. Marks you out as special. I mean, I only saw the latter end of Ken Dalglish at Celtic, and it broke my heart when he left. Never ever felt the same way about him when he played for Liverpool, but I always admired him and thought he was a wonderful player. And I think those of an older than me talk about Ken Dalglish and just say you have no idea how special he was. And then again, older than me talk about the Lions, various players in the Lions like Jimmy Johnston, Bertie Auld, Bobby Murdoch, John Clark, all of them, Billy McNeil. So I guess I'm talking about my era of watching Celtic and players that put that joy on your face. And Kenny Dalglish as a kid did that for me, and then Larson, as a grown up. I wrote in my book that I thought my days of hero worship were over after Kenny Dalglish because it broke my heart and football would never be the same and stuff. But when Henrik came along, I was kind of like, I was fighting that hero worship, but it is what it is. And I think Kyogo to a generation now is that player. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Maybe your generation and slightly older and slightly younger. Kyogo is a player who has put so much of a smile on their face, and he's a joy to watch. So that's the way I'm doing a compare and contrast type thing, Aidan.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, Tony. And I understand when you look at both those players you've touched on, why you would be hero worshipping them because they were also phenomenal. Yet with Kyogo, I think it's hard nowadays because obviously Larson was at Celtic for 7 years, and if somebody of that quality, or if you even get someone maybe half as good as that nowadays, it's very hard to keep them for that length of time just because the sort of environment's a bit different, or the playing field, I should say, in terms of transfers. But hopefully, with Kyogo signing that contract extension, he's going to also have his peak years at Celtic. So hopefully, we will get more than the kind of 2 seasons. Well, even if he does this year, you've had more than 2 seasons, but at least 4 or 5. So I think if he does that out, he keeps scoring plenty of goals, winning plenty of leagues, maybe scores some goals in the Champions League, then yeah, I think for maybe people my age or a wee bit younger, he'll sort of fall into maybe a player that they've seen hero worship. But as I was saying, I did that for Mr. Dembele, Tony. So anybody that scores goals, I start to think are the best ever. So, but overall, I think Kyogo goes well on his way to sort of having his legacy cemented at Celtic, particularly if he keeps playing as he is now over the next few years.
I got a good feeling about Kyogo in the Champions League, though, Aidan. I think he'll get off the mark. I'm fairly confident in that. I just think it's something that's burning within him, that wee ambition to, do achieve certain milestones in your career. And I think I would be pretty confident in the 6 games that are coming up that Kyogo will break his duck. And as you say, he's only played 6 games in the Champions League, and that was the first time he'd ever played in that competition. So he knows what it's all about. He knows the calibre of opposition they face, and he knows what to do. So, yep, I'm quite confident going in thinking that Kyogo will score. Don't ask me who against, but I'll maybe cough to that nearer the time. But yeah, I think he certainly can score goals for Celtic at that level and take his career, upwards again, as he has already done since he signed for Celtic. Now, something else, Aidan, that struck me over the weekend, talk about Lil Abada, who has an injury and could be out for a month. He's flown back to Glasgow. He's left the Israeli camp and he wouldn't take any part in matches against Romania and Belarus. He sustained a quad injury in training, and the Israeli boss, Alan Hazan, said he felt a pinch in his muscle. So he's now back at Celtic because they want to assess the damage. And Leo Barra just signed a new 4-year deal, as we know. And Sporting Lisbon had a £7 million bid booted out for him at the end of the transfer window. But again, Aidan, that kind of injury jinx and curse strikes Celtic again in international duty. Angered his fill of it in his first season as manager, but there's still players going away and there's still players getting injured, eh?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it's been added to obviously Carter Vickers is out, Nawrocki's out, Stephen Welsh. So it does feel like the injuries are piling up a bit, unfortunately, Tony. But as you were touching on earlier, fingers crossed that Cal McGregor, Lewis Palmer, etc., all come back okay from international duty. But yeah, that was a blow, and it does feel like most international breaks, maybe not every single one, but most, that players come back injured, which is not good for the squad. But yeah, a month as well. We're talking about him being out for, Tony. I think he was getting a scan, which he also must have had, because over the weekend it was being reported that he's going to be out for a month. So that rules him out of at least the first Champions League game, potentially the second one as well at home to Lazio. I'd need to sort of firm up the dates for that, but at least Feyenoord away he's going to miss, and that's a blow because Abada, particularly if you're playing on the counter attack, which I'd imagine will be a tactic of some sort away from home in Europe. He's very good at that in terms of being fast and being able to break up the park at sort of breakneck speed. So yes, it's a blow not to have him, and hopefully it's not too serious longer term, Tony. And he is only out for a month, and it's not one of those ones that we get told he's going to be out for a period of time, and then before you know it's 2-3 months he's not involved. So yeah, we was disappointed to see that, and that's what you fear, don't you? Anytime the players go away on international duty.
I mean, I was delighted when he signed a new deal, Aidan. I didn't particularly want Abada to leave. I don't want any of the players to leave the club, if truth be told. But he's had a stop-start campaign already, hasn't he? Scored a goal at Pittodrie, and I think he's one of these hot and cold players, isn't he? When he's on it, he's on it, and when he's off it, he's off it. He can be anonymous at times, and it's that consistency that you want Brendan Rodgers to bring out in him, isn't it? And improve him, and show that you are the finished article, or as close approximating to it as possible. But he definitely possesses, lots of talent and lots of speed. I just think he has to sort of marry those two together, and fuse them together, and be that big player for Celtic, that who starts every game, because he can score goals in big games. He's proved it before, and he can also provide. And as I say, he's got a wonderful weapon in the fact that he's speedy, can take players on. So I just think, we're still to see Abada really, hit the heights. As I say, he always plays in fits and starts, and I just want to see him be that consistent. I know, wingers are always inconsistent, but I think Abada has it in his locker to be a mainstay in that Celtic team, especially under Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I thought he actually had a positive start in terms of pre-season, and he looked like he was going to kick on, and then like a few of the players, he then struggled in the opening sort of league games. But yeah, I think he will be able to take his game to the next level under Brendan Rodgers. He must believe that as well, because otherwise he wouldn't have signed a contract extension, Tony. So yeah, I think he'll be a really positive player this season, and it's just a shame that he's not going to be involved by the looks of it for at least a month, if the reports are correct. It probably does beg the question of, is Lewis Palmer just going to be in from the start?
Looks like it.
Probably. In terms of right wing options, there's not really a lot, as there's Forrest, but I think we would all agree that he's probably not at the level anymore to be starting, particularly away in a Champions League tie, unless there's literally nobody else available. So does that mean he's now going to go, obviously Kyogo up front away to Feyenoord, Maid out in the left, and then Palmer on the right? I mean, in terms of options on that right-hand side, Tillio's obviously, I think, still out injured. I know he was kind of touted as somebody to be back mid-September, but when him and Alistair Johnson were both still out injured, then Johnson came back earlier. We've not heard anything else about Tillio. Then I think when Brendan Rodgers was asked in his last press conference in terms of guys that were out with Ox, the only one he was really highlighting was Hatate, I think, so that was going to be back in and hopefully involved. So Palmer seems like really would be the only option on the right-hand side, which, given the amount of wingers Celtic have got at the moment, is a bit crazy. You've suddenly only really got one proper option on the right-hand side, but don't let it go too much into the transfer window, Tony, because I know that's been discussed to death at this point. But
But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does for that Feyenoord game, just with Abada being out, because he would have probably been a likely starter for that game, you would imagine.
yeah, and also I think Brendan Rodgers will be asked the question this week about Tillio, because that ties in with the dates, middle of September. So I'm possibly looking at Tillio being either in the squad for Saturday, or maybe the following week. So if that's what Brendan Rodgers was saying, the kind of middle of September. So we are approaching the middle of September, but hopefully there'll be an update. I'm sure he'll update us when he does his press conference ahead of the Dundee game, or sometimes they might do something midweek. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's certainly a pertinent question to be asked when the journalists sit in front of him on Thursday, Friday, or whatever. They might do it earlier in the week, so we'll see what happens with that. But I think most Celtic supporters would like an update on that, wouldn't they, on Tillio's rehabilitation. But I think, like anything else, you mentioned Lewis Palmer. I think everybody's just busting a gut to see him. They want to see him, don't they, in the flesh, and they want to see. I think people are just interested to see if Celtic get free kicks from any kind of range and see what he does, because he is a kind of free kick specialist, and that could be vital, Aidan, in games coming up, especially away in Europe. You know, that if he is the dead ball expert and specialist, as they say, then you've got to utilise that to your ability, haven't you?
Absolutely, and it's a good sort of thing to have in your locker for those sort of games. A really good set piece. I thought Aaron Moy was pretty good at corners and free kicks in terms of his delivery. So it'll be good if you have Palmer that can also deliver the ball but be deadly from a set piece as well. I know Jota had also his goal against Real Madrid and a couple of free kicks near the end of the season, but having like a regular sort of great striking of a ball from a set piece is definitely a good thing to have in your arsenal. I'll also be interested to see Paulo Bernardo as well, Tony. He
Yeah,
was away with he's been away with Portugal under 21s. Hopefully he'll get a bit of game time along with Palma for Honduras, so they've got minutes in the legs coming back. Ideally, they get a bit of a look in whether it's off the bench or from the start against Dundee, so that when it comes to that Feyenoord game, they are options. Even if from Bernardo's point of view, it's off the bench, because I think that was another part of the problem earlier in the season before a few of these players came in. That you kind of the starting 11 was okay overall, but then you look to the bench and after you're maybe bringing off O or someone like that, I didn't really feel like there was a lot of options available. So yeah, we get to you want to see the new players in as soon as possible. Nat Phillips, another one. Obviously, Brendan
yeah.
Rodgers said he wasn't going to be ready for the game at Ibrox, which also worked out all right because Liam Scales put in a really good performance. But I think it'd be good to see Nat Phillips play against Dundee, Tony, if he's fit as well. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see the new players, and you want them involved as soon as possible, particularly someone like Nat Phillips, who's only on loan till January. Now that might be extended at the time if it's needed, but you know, it's you want to see them involved really ASAP, because that's why you bring the players in, particularly someone
Of
on an
course.
emergency loan. It's to make an instant impact. So fingers crossed they will be involved at some point.
Dennis Jameson saying Celtic haven't had a dead ball specialist since Lee Griffiths, and others saying Nakamura was the real dead ball specialist. He liked a free kick, didn't he, Aidan?
Yeah, he had a few, Tony, if I remember rightly. Yeah, no, Nakamura's fallen away, I would say, anyway. There's no competition, no, the last, maybe since my half check, even that in terms of dead ball specialist, Nakamura was unreal. Griffiths,
Yeah.
yeah, he hit some free kicks. I felt there was plenty of free kicks that he also just kind of skied over the bar. But yeah, Nakamura was unreal from set pieces.
Yeah, Naka gets my vote for that, and maybe even Lobo as well. He could take a mean free kick as well. But yeah, but as you say, I'm a bit interested to see the lineup for Dundee on Saturday. I think everybody's excited to see the new players, and Bernardo as well. He kind of shut the journalist down with the Celtic question, didn't he? He was just kind of concentrating on the Portuguese under 21s, but I mean, from what I've read about him, he's very highly rated, and they reckon he's a cracking footballer. So we'll all be able to judge that for ourselves if we get some minutes on the park on Saturday. But it's just exciting, and I think it's been a good international break in terms of Celtic and Celtic supporters were into optimistic about the future after beating Rangers at Ibrox. It would have been a hell of a lot longer and felt longer had they come in the back of a defeat, Aidan. So I guess the Celtic supporters are now got lots to look forward to and are in chipper mood, as they say, with 4 points clear of Rangers, joint top of the league with Motherwell, ahead on goal difference by 2. Could possibly welcome Nat Phillips, Lewis Palmer, Marco Tilio, Paulo Bernardo at some point into the starting 11 or into the 11 as moving forward. So plenty to be optimistic and positive about, Aidan.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Tony. It's definitely coming out of the international break and going into the next stage of the season a lot more positive than a couple of weeks ago after the games against Kilmarnock and Dundee, but not Kilmarnock, Dundee, sorry, Kilmarnock and St Johnstone. And it's all relative at the time, and I think fans are understandably frustrated, and there's still questions to be asked. The number of aspects, but no, it's a lot more positive than it was a couple of weeks ago. No doubt about that.
And we have, according to Kenny Dalglish, the transfer bargain of the millennium, still scoring goals for Celtic Aidan. So everything's looking rosy in the garden per se at this minute in time, isn't it?
Yep, it is indeed, Tony. It's as I'm saying, all positive at the moment.
Excellent. Well, I know you've got stuff to do and people to meet and things, and people to see and all that kind of stuff. So a short and sweet Monday morning briefing live will build it up over the course of the week for Celtic Dundee on Saturday. I believe you're going along to see Callum McGregor in action tomorrow, Aidan, against England. Is that right? You'll be there?
Yeah, we'll be indeed looking forward to it. It should be a good test for Scotland, who are obviously flying at the moment, and England haven't been great also, so it feels like it could be a good opportunity for them to maybe get a result. But yeah, I'm sure McGregor will be playing, Tony. He plays basically every game, doesn't he? So yeah, hopefully he comes through that unscathed, of course, as well.
That's all you can ask, isn't it? Fingers crossed he comes through unscathed. So good luck to Callum McGregor. Good luck to Scotland on Tuesday. And we shall see you tomorrow for the Celtic Way morning briefing live. Thanks very much for your comments in the section about Kyogo. And we wish Abada all the best in his rehabilitation as well. Hopefully it's a quick month, Aidan.
Yeah, fingers crossed, Tony, fingers crossed. And obviously, just before we finish up, the app is obviously available right now for
So it is, that's right.
people that are interested. Just all the articles that are available on the website, they're all available in app form. You can get that in the App Store, wherever else you get your apps on Android, etc. Just makes all the content a wee bit more streamlined. You've got it all in one place rather than always having to search for it. You can just click on it, which I know that's what I enjoy doing, Tony, in terms of
Yeah.
using apps. So yeah, that's something to get yourself involved in that, guys. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit like, subscribe. We really appreciate anybody that can. That along with subscribing to the website allows us to do videos like this Monday to Friday. Data content that Ryan does with Stats Bomb, Y Scout. Big interviews that Tony does. All your sort of support through those channels allows us to do that. So yeah, we really appreciate it and get yourself involved if you haven't already.
Yep. Download the app, guys, and also hit that subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £4 for 4 months of access to everything that we do on the website. And that's just all for the click of a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thank you for your company today, Aidan. Really enjoyed that. Top man. And thanks to all the contributors. We'll see you again tomorrow. Club football's on its way back. It's coming. Just be patient. Take care. All the best.